Today I want to talk about respecting the green room. What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another Comedy Tip Tuesday. I'm your host, Thai Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we get started, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. It definitely does help me with the algorithm and, of course, gives me the will to continue living. Anyway, we have a question from Chuck Fury. I've mentioned Chuck before. Chuck is a very cool guy, and I think that the question Chuck sent would be helpful to a lot of people, and I'll tell you guys how I feel about it. And at a point, he mentions that there is no blanket right or wrong answer for this, and he's 100% right on that, but I will give my opinion after you guys listen to me read Chuck's question. Understand that I did record this ahead of time, me reading it, because we all know about my well-documented struggles with literacy. Thank you, Chuck, for challenging me to actually read something. Let's listen to it. Comedy tip question. Reading audiences. I recently did a show where I read an audience and opted to go counter to what I knew they wanted. This show was at a new venue for me. I did some of my regular stuff and was doing fine, but not as well as usual. After a few bits on one topic, I switched to another and sensed that it was doable but touchy. I managed to finally get them very on my side, but knew where I was about to go and that they were not ready to go there with me. I could have done one punchline, then switched to another topic, or done a very lighthearted bit in the same vein. I am already known as being dark. This particular audience didn't know me at all, and the bit I did is by far my darkest. Of course I lost them. By the time I did the last tag, I was not even getting groans. Just silence from everyone but two audience members of about 70, and the headliner, who were laughing hysterically. I can usually rely on my closer to fix anything, but it got mere chuckles. I actually apologized to the feature comic for putting her in a place that she had to work uphill to get them back. The flip side of all this is that some people who didn't laugh, probably afraid to, came up to me after to tell me how funny it was. One even asked me to autograph a show poster for him. I also ended up with a minor merch sponsorship from one of the audience members who was laughing. That said, I am under no delusion, and I know that I made the wrong decision in this instance. And I did learn a valuable lesson. Despite any benefit, I made the selfish decision to entertain myself at the expense of the vast majority of the audience and the two comics who were on after me. But there was a lot of unexpected nuance as well that I previously mentioned. I know this is a topic where there is no one right blanket answer for all situations. Had I been the closer, I might even feel a bit justified. But I wasn't the closer, and I definitely acted wrongly. All that said, I would benefit greatly from hearing your thoughts and philosophy on reading audiences and doing what you want versus catering to what the audience wants, especially as an opener or feature. Okay, so here's the thing, Chuck. I don't have much advice to give you because I feel like you're already thinking about it the right way when it comes to you not being the headliner. I really do feel like if you're in one of the opening spots, you don't really go too edgy or too dark, no matter what you're known for. Like you said, the audience didn't really know you, so it's not like they were expecting you to do dark and then you were going to disappoint them by not going your signature style. So I wouldn't even let that factor into it. I would just think about it in the way of, I was one of the opening comics. When you're one of the opening comics, you should probably keep it a little bit lighter. Like, I've had features before try to ask me about doing some really edgy stuff, and I was like, yeah, save that for when you headline. Like, one asked me about an N-word bit that he wanted to do, and one, I'm not a fan of white people saying the N-word to begin with. That's no secret. But also, I don't want to have to dig out of an N-word hole. Like, after you say the N-word, that's going to put a feeling on the audience, and I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't know what your content was about, but I'm also not going to say that you did the worst thing in the world, because this is just a part of being a comic. Like, every once in a while, you're going to make a judgment call and you're going to decide, okay, I'm going to go really dark on this one. And then you're going to decide that it's probably not the best idea. And from everything that you've said, I think you're looking at it the right way. Like you said, yes, there were benefits to you sticking to your guns and doing it the way you wanted to do it. But at the same time, it wasn't the best decision for the show in general, and you want to think about the show as a whole, not just your part, because you're not headlining, you're not the one that's going to have to dig out of that. The headliner, you said, seemed to be laughing hysterically, so I wouldn't really worry about that too much. But at the same time, just keep it in mind for future that maybe you'll do it a little differently. But that's just one of those things, when you said, when you know that you've read the audience and they want you to go one particular way, but you kind of don't want to cater. When you're headlining, yeah, but even then, if you have a way to bail yourself out and lighten the mood, because you ideally want to come back and headline again. So it's not like you really want to just bomb, especially if you have it within your power to go ahead and save it. I would say go ahead and save it and then continue to work on that bit. If it was working to a certain point, that's where you need to work from. And so I would say that that's just something to keep in mind, and the bit will get better and better as you go on. Work on it at open mics as much as possible. That's my best advice when it comes to really edgy or dark humor, is to really work on it in open mics. And that's what I would say is the best strategy for what it is you've just described. I hope that helps out. I hope that's enough advice on that. Like I said, I don't really feel like there's a lot to tell you because you're already thinking the right way. It seems like you have a good head on your shoulders when it comes to this, and I would just confirm what you're already thinking. So in the future, just go ahead and keep it on the lighter side. If you're always going to be dark, I definitely get that, because I'm always going to be edgy to a certain degree. There's no taking that out of what I do completely. It just doesn't happen that way. But I know that I can do bits that the audience is going to find more pleasing if I am in a supporting role on the show. So I wanted to talk a little bit about respecting the green room. And the reason I want to talk about this one is because I know a lot of newer comics don't really understand it, don't really get it. And they feel like when a headliner wants the green room clear or doesn't want a lot of people in the green room, that's because the headliner thinks that they're better than everybody. And I also bring it up because it's something that just happened this weekend. Understand that I'm not at all upset with the comedian. He did apologize for his lack of green room etiquette. I really did appreciate it. I fully accepted his apology, but this is just a good example and a good way of me letting you guys know how these things work out sometimes. The first thing to understand is that the green room really is for people that are performing on the show. If you happen to be a guest set or you're a friend of somebody that's on the show, if you want to go back and maybe say hi to the comics that are on the show really quick or introduce yourself, that's fine and that's perfectly acceptable. But do not make yourself at home. In a lot of cases, green rooms are small. We were at Laff's in Tucson, which has a really small green room area, and it's not exactly the most privacy in that green room. And so as the headliner, I'm already working against a bit when it comes to the green room in that particular instance. And like I said, it's not like I was trying to be snotty at all, or it was just that I was running on limited sleep. We got there Friday. We left Thursday morning right after OCHA. So by the time we got on the road, I want to say it was 5 a.m. Anyway, my point is it was basically a turnaround trip and it was a lot of driving. And so when this particular comic came in, it was on the Saturday and we had planned to drive back Saturday night. And I wanted to make sure that I had all my content uploaded and ready to go for my YouTube. So I had some editing that I wanted to take care of. Plus, like before I do shows, I do like to just get in my head and I do like to just be alone for a minute. Even if I have more of a set that I'm working on and not just doing a lot of crowd work, which this weekend I did a lot of crowd work, which I was very happy with. But crowd work does take a lot out of me. Crowd work is a lot of me thinking on my feet. Crowd work is a lot of me having to be fully present in the room. And so in between shows, I just want to relax and not do anything. So a comic came in the green room to say hello before the first show on Saturday. He was there as a guest of the host, and the host wasn't even hanging out in the green room. After a point, the host walked out, and it's just me and the other comic talking, and then Bruce, who was my feature, Bruce Leonard, went ahead and walked out of the green room as well. And so I was chatting with that comic for a while. And then we got to a point where I was like, okay, Bruce is getting on stage now. So like in my head, I was just like, okay, I just want to get in my space and start thinking about what I'm supposed to start thinking about and recharge a little bit, maybe do a little bit of editing, whatever. So that comic wasn't really getting the hint, even though I had wrapped up the conversation. Instead, he like grabbed his backpack backpack, which in my head, I was like, okay, why is he grabbing his backpack right now? So he grabs his backpack, and I was like, maybe if I leave the green room for a minute, he'll get the hint that maybe he should leave the green room as well. So I went outside to smoke a cigarette, and when I came back in, not only was he still in the green room, he had moved from one of the chairs onto the couch of the green room and had his computer out and was using the coffee table in the green room to start editing. And I just, in my head, was like, what is going on right now? In whose world does this seem like what you should be doing as a guest in the green room? You're not even on the show. He ended up doing a guest set on the late show. This is still the early show. I didn't know he was going to do guest sets. I don't care if he did guest sets or a guest set, but at the same time, you're not part of the show. And even if you were a part of the show, I would still at some point be like, hey, this isn't your office. This isn't a study hall. I need you to just go ahead and leave the green room. But I also don't want to have to say that, because to me, this is just green room etiquette. You should already know this. I should not have to say this to you. Nobody should have to say this to you. So eventually I went over to the host, who was not in the green room, like I said, and I just told him, hey, your boy's cool and everything like that, but I don't need him in the green room the entire time. And then I guess he sent a text to his friend, and then his friend ended up getting out of the green room. But that's also something to keep in mind if you're one of the comics on the show. Like if you had been in the position of the host, just from the beginning, make sure that your friend knows that they don't hang out in the green room when you're not in the green room. Like, it's not really that hard. And to me, it's not even as big time as everybody tries to make it seem. It's just sometimes we have stuff that we need to do in the green room, and we don't need you taking up extra space. In LA, there are signs on the green room that say, if you're not on the show, please don't hang out in the green room. At the Ice House specifically, which I don't think has reopened yet, but at the Ice House specifically, there's a sign on the door that lets people know. And some comics were so upset when that sign first got put on, but it is for a reason. Sometimes we are traveling a lot. Sometimes we are tired. Sometimes you're going to sit in the spot that we sit in. Like, that's one thing I had to deal with one person in a green room one time when I was performing in Reno. It's like, he's sitting on the couch. He's not even on the show. I did radio all that morning, and that's when they used to have us do like 4 different radio spots, and that's no exaggeration. It was 4 different radio spots early in the morning. I'm super tired. I had to promote. I haven't been getting as much sleep as I need to get because of all the travel and because of the promo for the show. And now I've got a headline, and I've got this comic that's not even on the show sitting on the couch, and there's very limited seating. And so I just told him to get out of the couch and also to just get out of the green room. And he got upset about it, but I was like, I don't care how he feels about it. And that's what you guys have to understand. When it comes to these kinds of things, in a lot of cases, we don't want to have to tell you this. Like, if you're supposed to be a professional, which is what hangs out in the green room, is professional comics. Granted, if you're on some kind of showcase and everybody's hanging out in the green room because there's 8 of you and no real headliner and you guys all just hang out in the green room, that's one thing. But when it's on a weekend show and there's a headliner, feature, opener, and you're not officially on the show, do not just hang out in the green room. Nobody needs you loitering. That's not what the green room is for. I know it makes you feel special, but it's not your office. It's not a study hall. It is a space for the performers that are on the show to do the things that they need to do. I also had one time where I hadn't said anything because there were 2 or 3 comics that had come back, and I was just trying to be chill about it, even though I still did feel like, okay, why are these people in the green room when they're not on the actual show? But I still was trying to be cool about it, and then it broke out in an argument because it turned out that one of them had owed the other one money or not paid the other one for a show. And as soon as that argument started, I was like, hey, this does not happen in the green room. I want everybody out of this green room now. I don't care what you're talking about, because one of them tried to explain to me, but I don't care. I don't care even a little bit. I just don't need it happening in the green room. I don't want to hear it. It's local business. It has nothing to do with me. I don't live in this city. I don't know your guys' scene. I don't want to get involved in your scene. I don't care why you're fighting. I just need you guys to get out of here. And so everybody left the green room. Another time, one of the comics on the show invited some of his friends to come back and meet me before the show, which I hate meeting people before the show, especially friends and family of the other comics, because they always feel like they can talk to me like I'm their best friend. And it's like, I don't know you. I don't even want to meet you right now. I don't mind meeting you after the show at meet and greet or in the line. If you want to meet me, that's the perfect place to meet me. But before the show, I don't want to talk to anybody. And that particular day, I was getting ready in the green room because this was at the San Jose Improv. And I had my hands full of gel because I was doing my hair. And then this lady comes in, and I'm trying to be as nice as possible. And a comic's like, this is my friend so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And then I just looked at her, and I was like, oh, good meeting you. I was like, I would shake your hand, but, I've got this gel, and I'm trying to do my hair. And then she was like, or you could have just done your hair before you got here. And I felt like, bitch, get out of the fucking green room. This is the exact reason that I don't want anybody in the green room, because I don't want to have to pretend to be your best friend. I don't want to humor you. I don't want to have to explain why it is I'm doing my hair in the green room, which is one of the things that the green room is for getting ready. It's not for me to have a pre-show meet and greet with your friends and family because you're excited because you're on the show. I've been doing this for long enough that I appreciate headlining, but I'm definitely not excited to just be there. I'm not excited to just be in a green room. I'm not excited by a lot of things to do with this job anymore, and that's the reason that I'm starting to do the road less. Anyway, just something for you guys to keep in mind when it comes to green room etiquette. Stay out of the green room if you're not on the actual show. Like I said, if you want to come in and say hi to the comic real quick and they're cool with that, then just say a quick hello, a quick polite hello, and then get out of the green room. Nobody needs you back there. That's just what it is. Some people are going to say I'm an asshole for saying this. I don't give a fuck what you people think of me in that way. I just don't. The smart ones will hear me out and use this information accordingly. The dumb ones will be offended and think that I'm being an asshole or gatekeeping or whatever the fuck. But I'll tell you guys about me in the green room. When I am host or feature, even if I'm on the show in an official capacity and I am sitting down, say in the big chair or in the couch, wherever I'm sitting, as soon as a headliner walks in the room, what I do is I stand up and I stand in a neutral spot so that the headliner can sit where they're most comfortable, because at the end of the day, the green room is for the headliner. And even me, with as long as I've been doing this and as much stuff as I've done, even I respect that the green room is for the headliner. So whatever position I'm in, if I'm not headlining, as soon as the headliner walks in the green room, I stand up, stand in a neutral spot so that they can pick wherever they want to sit, whether that's the best seat or the shittiest seat. Sometimes you look at something and you'll be like, why would the headliner want that seat? It's the hardest seat in this green room. Little do you know, the headliner has a bad back and he'd rather sit in something more firm than in one of the more cushy chairs or the couch, and that's why he wants that crappy chair. So maybe if you want to continue to get hired, if you want to continue to work, if you want to move from guest set to being on the show, you take the advice that I'm giving you for what it is, which is good advice. I'm giving you the best advice that I can give you, and I'm even on the nicer side of headliners. I know some headliners that don't want anybody in the green room, including the host or the feature. They'll specifically say, I don't want anybody in this green room unless I invite them in here. And some comics will be like, well, that person sounds like an asshole. Well, maybe they are an asshole, but for some reason they're the headliner and you're not. So how about we just respect that? Anyway, if this has been helpful, you're welcome. If it hasn't been helpful, don't subscribe, don't comment. But I'm just trying to be the most honest. And in case you can't tell, I'm still recovering from all the travel we did because it was literally a turnaround trip. Really great shows in Tucson, though. Laff's Comedy Club, one of my favorite comedy clubs in the country to perform at. And yeah, I am still recovering because I'm not the best at traveling anymore. If you guys don't know, I'm completely 100% sober. Don't drink, don't do any drugs, don't smoke weed, don't do anything. Just 100% sober and still recovering a day after we got home. This is Monday, and we got home on Sunday morning. So that lets you guys know kind of why every once in a while I want my space and not want anybody in the green room. Anyway, this has been Thai Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.